What is up, guys? Welcome to the video. Today we are going to be talking with a high-level professional European player in Fortnite. There is a lot of important things he wants to discuss and tell us, so let's just go ahead and hop right into it.
Hello everyone, my name is VoVo and I've been playing Fortnite with Team Zone Gods at a high level for about 2.5 months now. My background in gaming consists mostly of FPS games. Essentially, I've played a lot of CSGO and Overwatch, achieving the highest rank in both games. I also loved to scream back in the days when I was playing those games. I must also mention that it's important to note that I'm an EU player. The information that you'll hear from me is mostly about the EU pro scene in Fortnite.
Welcome to the channel, VoVo, and I really appreciate you coming on here. I know there's some serious things you want to talk about, but before we hop into those, I just want to let everybody know this guy is very good. We'll go ahead and show some of his stats up here. He plays for one of the best teams in Europe, so he definitely knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm also deeply sad about the state of the game lately, and Epic in general not communicating their intentions and how they want to develop the scene further. I find it also extremely unfair that EU got the opportunity to play customs and NA didn't. And Epic did not really give us a reason for that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've been wondering for a while too, and not even a lot of the North American community knows that EU has had custom games for a while now. Do you know exactly when you guys got them?
Around the beginning of March when the first community got them. And since then, we've had custom games running almost every day.
Wow, that's kind of like confusing, right? Like 2 to 3 months EU has been practicing on custom games, but NA really hasn't had anything.
Well, to be fair, it's mostly fun customs, so keys that are dropped for the general public to play in as well. But still, it's custom games and it's still better than going and sniping. Also, the divisions is something that was introduced like recently, so I think the divisions ran for about 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks at most. And those were where the real action happened.
Okay, so the divisions was kind of like a tournament or league in Europe where the best players would come together and play, and this was hosted all by the community?
Yeah, exactly. And only the top teams would get all the way on top, and it was a very, very high level play overall.
And all these players and teams who were competing in this league were trying to be like professionals, taking the game very seriously, right?
Exactly. Everybody who was playing in the divisions generally is looking to go further with an esports career in Fortnite.
Okay.
There's a lot of orgs also competing in the league, like most notably Method, Team Secret, and Epsilon are some of the teams that were competing in the divisions.
Okay, so these teams are all really good. So for you specifically in your team, how much do you guys usually practice?
We are trying to play about 2 hours of snipes every day. However, snipes in the EU are in a pretty bad state. There's not enough teams in our games to call it practice, essentially. So there's no way to practice right now and actually get better at the game.
And you said that is because there's a lack of teams in EU right now?
We have a pro Discord, yeah, and there's a lack of teams at the moment in
Okay.
EU. We've been relying on the divisions for so long now, and when we try to snipe now, and this was actually a problem even before. We're getting like 2 or 3 teams every game. This is not enough to call it practice,
enough, yeah.
pretty much. Even if we would add more teams in, right? It still wouldn't be practice because there's a big gap between a good team and an actual team that wants to go pro in the game. It's a huge gap. And for example, you play your own snipe normally, right? You play tactically, you want to win. You also want to get some kills and stuff, but a team that is average will push you and you will both waste a lot of materials, a lot of resources. That's how it generally goes. And it's not practice because, like, you practice build fighting. But in general, that's my opinion of snipes as well, because a lot of teams are doing mistakes and pushing into you and forcing you into a really bad position from the start of the game.
Okay, so what you're saying is there's some teams that are pretty inexperienced or even players from snipe games that will force you to make bad early decisions in order to survive. And then because of this, it puts you in a bad position come late game. You can't set up exactly how you want to because you might be low on materials or whatever it is. And that's a big problem because late game is where you guys really want to practice. Okay, so let's move on a little bit now and talk more about the divisions. When did it start? How did it start? Why did it get shut down by Epic? Pretty much just give us the whole story.
I'm not super familiar with how the first steps of forming communities went down. When I started looking for a high level of play myself, I found out about 2 big communities. Pretty much the French community War Legend and the EU/Nordic community Bush Paranoia. War Legend was actually one of the first communities to gain access to custom games in the first place, and they could host fun custom games for all the players, all the general audience. they came up with a league format designed for the top teams to promote and the bottom teams to relegate. This format was called essentially the divisions, and it was pretty much the highest level of play you could see in Fortnite, hands down. You could never see a higher level of play anywhere else. The only downside was that only French teams could get involved in the project. So later, Bush Paranoia introduced the divisions for EU and Nordic players, along with several other communities which I cannot really confirm with 100% accuracy. But essentially, this is where it all started. And to describe a bit about how the division system works, you would go with your team into a qualifier stage, which is free for everyone to play in, and it's open custom keys. A total of 48 custom keys dropped at 2 minutes intervals, and you need to win one game to go further and qualify in the main qualifier. After that, in the main qualifier stage, the teams that manage to win a custom game will compete, and the top 3 would go on and promote to Division 4, which is where it all starts. There were 4 divisions, 12 teams in each division. And essentially, the top 3 teams will get to promote to the next division. The lowest 3 will get to relegate to a lower division.
Wow, so there was 4 divisions, 1 through 4, 1 being the best, 4 being the worst, and there's 12 in each division? That's a lot of teams, right?
That's a lot of teams willing to get involved, yeah.
Yeah. So what was like the difference of skill level then between like Division 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Divisions 1 and 2 were really super close to each other in terms of level of play. However, Divisions 3 and 4, you could see a big drop of inexperienced teams still not knowing how to play the meta.
Okay.
Which we're going to talk about a bit later,
definitely.
I assume.
All right, so real quick then, how often did you guys play matches? How exactly was the format of this tournament? And then why did Epic shut it down?
You would essentially play for 2 days in a row, 5 games every day. This would consist of a round of play, pretty much. Pretty much during 10 games of play, you would gather some points, and based on those points, you would relegate and promote if you're on the top. However, Epic's view on custom games is that Fortnite is a community/entertainment-oriented game, and the custom games exist only to promote these aspects. This is what we know so far. Thus, when Epic figured that divisions were a platform created for competitive play, they just took them down. And I think part of the reason is that Epic Games do not want to promote competitive play or esports just yet. And the main reason would be probably the turtle meta, which is really a hot topic right now. This is the only reason I can find,
So this is what you guys were told, that the game was supposed to be meant for entertainment and not competitive esports, or at least the custom games were meant for that?
Exactly. They still think of their game as an entertainment-oriented game, as I said.
Yeah.
So pretty much competitive play and anything that is esports related, they have yet to release information about it.
Wow. Okay. So I can understand how Epic might want to get a wrap on the esports thing and make sure like they have everything perfect before they start pushing things. But why shut down like a community ran thing that's not even getting any light right now anyways?
Yeah, it comes as a shock to everybody. And we are really down right now.
Yeah,
we are not understanding why they're not working with us and why they're not giving us information so that we can help, so that the players that are actually involved with the game and dedicated at the game, they are the ones that need to decide how the game should be balanced, not the general audience and like, turtle meta is the thing. Let's buff C4 and see how it goes. That's not the way you do it. We've had this platform of divisions where you can see how the game works and how the highest level of play looks like. So if you do balances, they should do something like a PTR on Overwatch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They should allow the professionals access to a game that has some changes, some tweaks, and have the professional players play in that and see how it looks. I don't understand why they're not doing that.
Yeah, it would make sense for them to be in constant contact with the players that are the best at the game, who play it the most, who understand it at the highest level. I don't see why they wouldn't do that, and I definitely don't see why they would want to shut divisions down.
I don't see a reason as well, but then again, I don't see a reason for NA not to get customs. And yet it didn't happen. They didn't give a reason. NA did not get customs still, and overall, they don't know how the game looks with a 48-player lobby from the beginning, no noobs giving them stuff for free, nobody wanting to fight. They are not familiar with those things yet.
Okay, then let's go ahead and jump right into this then. Let's talk about the meta. Let's help everybody understand what exactly and how exactly the game is played at the highest level.
Alright, so this will be a long story. I want everybody to grab the popcorn. And it mainly happens because nobody wants to fight and lose early game. You have to imagine this is a battle royale game, and the placement matters. And imagine also sitting in a 48-player lobby from the start, each team going to a certain place on the map. Nobody would want to fight early or mid-game and lose their resources that they would need so badly for the endgame. Why they would need these resources so badly for the endgame? Because a lot of the times an early fight would happen, 3 players would get knocked, and 1 guy would run away and go on to survive until the very end.
So he would just leave his teammates dead and just go try to live?
He would just leave his teammates dead. He will try to live until the very end, turtle, just so he can get a better placement, pretty much. As I didn't mention, but there's a pointing system for the divisions that was in place, and you can show that on screen right now. They were rewarding positioning and kills at the same time. However, I still don't think that if kills are rewarded more, I still don't think the turtle meta would go away. It's not rewarding enough to sacrifice all your resources early on and risk your positioning.
Oh, okay.
We were actually beginning to test things out, and then Epic just drops the bomb on us. No matter how rewarding it is to get kills, you have to think about the winning play all the time.
Yeah.
And the winning play, is like go on top, get 1 guy to the top, then send the other 3 down to get kills. That's how you win.
So you said it was a 48-player lobby. That means there's 12 teams, right?
There's 12 teams, yeah.
Okay.
12 teams involved. And they can see it in the screenshot as well. That's the picture for Division 1. Pretty much the top teams in the game. Yeah, as I said, there were orgs that were playing Team Secret and Epsilon as well.
Yeah.
Epsilon actually relegated to Division 2. So that's how competitive it really was.
Wow.
It was really, really, really competitive.
All right, let's get real in-depth with the turtle meta. How exactly would it work? What would a team need to do? What resources? Where would you position? All that good stuff.
A team's objective in the divisions was to acquire a decent amount of mats really quick. I would say about 1.4 to 1.6k mats each, at least 500 metal as well, so that you can build yourself a nice and sturdy base. And the objective was to rotate early to a high ground that is in the center of the second or third circle. Essentially, you just build a metal base and wait for updates on the circle. Teams that are fortunate to get the circle on their base will have to wait and shoot the other people, and the others will just turtle under them or next to them and again wait for updates, because the circle plays an important role in the game. In all the confusion, a team could easily try to go from lower ground all the way up and steal the high ground. As I mentioned, the high ground is the winning play, and it's the play that will lead to a guy medkitting and using campfires to survive until the very end. This was your objective. If you want to win the game, you have to be able to siege that high ground, or become really well hidden in the middle ground somewhere where the guys coming down from high ground would not find and kill you, and then you would just medkit. And the final play of the turtle meta would look like this. Imagine 2 or 3 teams fighting for high ground, and the rest just killing each other on the bottom floor. The winner of the high ground, as I said, will keep 1 player on the high ground for the campfire and medkit play and send the survivors down to get kills and deny other medkit plays. This meta is super effective, mainly because a good team with decent amount of resources can dominate the low ground turtles and get kills. Even if they're not winning the game, the kills are getting rewarded and they will still manage to get a lot of points. And for example, if a team is not so fortunate, they got into an early fight, they had to fight that, and they don't have a lot of resources, they can still get a higher placement if they go undetected in the turtles. This is exactly why this is so effective.
Okay, so there's a squad up top who won the high ground game. They're going to leave 1 guy up there. He will go for a healing play at the end of the game in order to win. Then they will send the rest of their players that are alive all the way down to the middle of the fort, the bottom of the fort, to try to pick up as many kills as possible to get even more points. And this squad right here is in the best position out of everyone. They're going for the most optimal play. They're getting points from kills, and they're also going to get a high placement from the hill play. And then there's just a ton of squads left at the bottom, whether you have 1 guy that is just trying to survive and get a high placement, then other squads with maybe 2 to 4 people alive who are turtling, but also trying to pick up kills to get more points. And this is when there is only like 3 or 4 circles left to go, and there's still 7 to 9 squads alive. So how often does a game exactly go like that then?
9 out of 10 games, exactly how it happens. Also,
Wow.
it's not unusual to die on the 14th or 15th spot in the squads and finish top 10. It was not unusual. 8 or 9 teams with only one player alive.
Wow. How many
Essentially, it's
squads
not unusual.
alive would you say there were usually when that last circle comes?
When the last circle comes, the very, very last circle comes, like the high ground team already sent its players down. So it's a really chaotic situation in which everybody is hunting everybody. I would say about 5 or 6 teams.
Wow.
I would say like 5 full teams, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's 5 full teams. It might be like 10 teams with like 1 or 2 players each and only like 2 full squads, essentially how it goes. So this is pretty much the description of the meta. I was trying to be as accurate as I can with explaining how it generally goes. And in the EU Divisions 1 and 2, around 30 to 35 people out of 48 were alive in the last 2 or 3 circles. This is not an exaggeration, and it is purely the truth of how squads were played. And I must point out that the other modes would not be any different in a competitive environment.
So like solos and duos?
Maybe in solos it's a bit harder to live that much, but I can still see 15 to 20 people just being alive in the last 2 or 3 circles. Also, duo is way worse than squads. There's way more teams, way less opportunities to push someone, and overall just people turtling and not wanting to fight because there's only 2 of you compared to 4 of you in squad situations.
Yeah, I was actually reading a discussion earlier today about people saying that duos would be much better. So you think it would be actually worse?
I think it would be actually worse. We actually got a duo division right before they got shut down, and we got to play a bit and experience a competitive play. Obviously, there's been qualifiers and not all the top teams were playing in the duos. But it was still the same scenario of 25 to 30 people alive in the last 2 or 3 circles. It was all the same.
So what do you think exactly could counter this turtle meta and change things up?
So we have to agree in the first place, this meta is undeniably bad. It is causing some insane latency issues during gameplay, and this is happening in all game modes, as I said. I'm not going to describe every bad aspect of these issues, and to be quite frank with you all, I don't know how it can be avoided. We have to remind ourselves that Fortnite is a battle royale game, and the main purpose is to survive until the end, not to frag out. I could say that as long as there are more than 8 teams alive in the last 4 or 5 circles, the turtle meta is unavoidable at this point. And buffs like C4 buffs won't even help at this point. I just want to quickly point out the fact that the turtle meta in a 1v1 situation is not as OP as people think it is. It all comes down to all the teams doing the same thing, and if you want to push a team that is turtling, you have to get prepared to get shot from 5 other teams, which is something that it's not worth doing in competitive play if you want to go for a high placement and get those points in. So pretty much the turtle meta is done because everybody does it. Groupthink that happens because my neighbor does it, I have to do it as well.
Okay, so people turtle up, but when exactly does the action start happening?
I would say about 4 or 5 circles before the last one. This is when all the action starts. And this is because 2 teams generally are already in the circle with huge towers. The other teams have to try to attach themselves with turtles to the already existing towers. And pretty much that's how it goes. Teams at the top will fight at the top, teams at the lower ground will fight at the lower ground. And to counter this meta, I really don't see how it can be done. I think a drastic change in how the game works and is perceived needs to be done. I cannot really tell you what would be the best approach, but that is why we are here, the dedicated players. We are here to help Epic test these things out and reach out a conclusion together. I really hope that someone from Epic will see this video and, I don't know, maybe give it a serious thought or something. But to be quite frank, my best overall suggestion is allowing for teams to find more mats more efficiently instead of nerfing the amount of mats you get. Because think of it this way, you fight one team, right? And you end up winning. You are left with 4 kills in case you manage to take down everybody, and next to no mats. And how can you farm mats when there's probably other teams around you that are already farming and they are already more stacked than you because you just spent the time fighting? We have to get into consideration the fact that farming takes a long time, and in competitive play, staying on the edge of the circle is the worst position you can be in as a team. Mainly because all the good teams will already get the good positions and will be ready once the circle moves.
So if you're constantly on the go trying to move from the circle, you're going to get caught off from the guys who are set up in the middle of the circle with a huge tower.
That is precisely right.
And if you don't have mats, you can't turtle up.
If you don't have mats, you can't turtle up. There's no way for you to defend yourself against the team that is already holding the good position.
So you want to give more mats overall. You want to make it easier to farm, or maybe even have teams start off with a certain amount.
I'm not sure about starting with a certain amount. I like the way it is with farming in the beginning, but just make the mats overall easier to farm or more widely available on the map.
Yeah.
There's certain zones like circles. For example, if we think about between Anarchy and Risky, if the zone ends up being there, there's no way for you to farm anything, and essentially you have to go there and be prepared for it pretty much. So make the mats widely available on each part of the map, or just make the mats more easier to get so that when you fight a team, you can still go and farm some mats, and you can essentially be just a little bit more prepared in case you need to fight again, or maybe you need to turtle pretty much.
So that's a really good suggestion there, and I honestly do think and hope that Epic does reach out to you guys and starts working together so that we can create a game that everybody enjoys, especially at a competitive level.
Would help a lot, yeah.
Is there any final thoughts you want to add in on this?
Not at all. I think whatever I wanted to say has been said already. It's just the fact that I want to remind Epic again that we are here and we are willing to help in every way possible or available to us. They look too much into normal games, into average play.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. This is kind of like a situation you could find in a lot of games where there's a lot of lower level players, or just like that average player will complain so much about something on Reddit and the forums of the website, and that adds up, and the developer thinks, oh, this needs to be fixed, we need to change this. But when in actuality, when you look at the top level of play, it's not really that big of a problem. It's actually the opposite, and they end up making it worse.
Exactly, that's pretty much how it is.
So yeah, hopefully Epic see this, start working with the pro community. Other than that, is there anywhere people can follow you at, VoVo? Twitter, Twitch, YouTube?
Just message me on Twitter if you want to talk to me, and follow me on Twitter. DMs are open as well, so that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you for coming on here, VoVo. It was really fun discussing all these things and helping the community understand what the issues are from the EU's perspective and just overall from a top tier perspective.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really consider this video to be really important, and it needs to be done. If not by me, it could have been anyone else, but I still think that this information needs to get out.
I agree. All right, thank you, man. Have a great day.
Thank you. Same to you.